One Big 12 coach is the most likely coach in the country to be fired. That's update number one. Update number two is another Big 12 coach is suddenly a candidate for a job at two different Power 2 schools. One in the SEC, one in the Big 10. Yeah. At least according to what we are seeing right now from the gambling world and from ESPN. Okay. So if you would have asked me before the season, John, by week 3, who is the Big 12 coach that would be most likely to be number one on the list of coaches about to be fired? And in fact, the way it's phrased, next coach to be fired in college football. That's the list. There are odds on it. If you told me, John, in week 3, leading up to the games, one Big 12 coach is going to be number one on that list, I probably would have guessed that like Brent Brennan lost to Weber State, or like maybe Scott Satterfield losing to Bowling Green. I think that's where my mind would have drifted first. And Scott Satterfield is on this list, by the way. Okay, so it's not, I'm not totally abstaining him from all of this. Scott Satterfield is on the list. But it's neither of those two, all right? It's neither of those two. Let's bring this up for you. Show you these odds. Show you these odds because it is important as far as the Big 12 goes. So, why are we not showing up? Why are we not showing up? There we go. It's Mike Gundy. It's Mike Gundy, folks. Mike Gundy is the most likely to be the next coach fired in college football. This according to bookies.com. Here are the odds that you can see in the implied probability. Now, Mike Gundy is in there at number 1. Scott Satterfield's down at number 8, just behind Lincoln Riley, just ahead of Kalen DeBoer, which is where I do have some issues with this list. I would not spend any of your hard-earned money betting Mike Gundy to be the next coach in college football to be fired. If this were a list of, it's all about how it's phrased, right? If this were a list of like just coaches, odds that a coach will be fired, that changes things. But Oklahoma State, I've got news for bookies.com or anybody who's going to take that number. Oklahoma State is not firing Mike Gundy midseason. Like, that's not going to happen. The guy has done enough to earn the right to coach out the rest of the year. So I think it's pretty crazy to see that above Billy Napier. Like, guys, if somebody's getting fired in season, Billy Napier is the guy that would be getting fired in season. SEC job. They were already basically out on him last year until he saved his job and kept it on life support. A similar situation to what Gundy did, having to restructure his contract and all that last year, except Billy Napier does not have the built-up cachet that Mike Gundy does. I mean, if Billy Napier, who plays one of the toughest schedules in the country, if Billy Napier starts losing games and he's 1-3 in the SEC, it'll just be lights out. Okay. I don't know that Napier's making it through the season. And how about, Kalen DeBoer? I know the buyout is crazy there. I know that's an issue. But Kalen DeBoer, man, being behind Scott Satterfield, guys, let's just say it out loud. Who's more likely to get fired in season, Kalen DeBoer or Scott Satterfield? Kalen DeBoer. I mean, Bama fans are already ready to run him out. There was the clip going around to the woman in Alabama who got asked, what would you do if you won the Powerball? And the first thing she said was pay the buyout for Kalen DeBoer to get him out of there. I mean, Texas A&M's done it with a similar buyout in what they felt like was a desperate situation. Desperate times, desperate measures in Tuscaloosa, man. So I would do this. I would do this list a little bit differently. All right. Now, the point of me sharing this with you is not merely to take these as gospel, but it is to talk about this and the situation now. Like, it sounds like Mike Gundy doesn't have a ton of allies left at Oklahoma State if he's going to continue losing. I mean, I don't know that 69-3 is like you can't come back from that period, because if he MacGyvers this thing together and gets them into a Big 12 championship game like he did a couple of seasons ago, I mean, you're not going to get rid of him at that point. But it sure seems like an uphill battle. That's a big hill to climb particularly if you're not going to have Haas Haney at quarterback. That's going to be a really difficult thing to do. So what's the threshold here? Like if Mike Gundy's going to go 5-7, 4-8, something like that this year, I mean, I think it's going to be really tough for him to stick around. And I get that he's a legend. I get that he should have a statue out in front of Boone Pickens Stadium. The guy basically is Oklahoma State football, but he already was close enough to being run out of town that he had to take a pay cut and restructure his contract just last offseason. Okay. So this is a real thing. I'm sure the politics of it could be a little bit tricky, but Gundy doesn't have a reputation for being a guy who's cozying up to a lot of donors. So again, I just wonder about what kind of allyship he has left around there. And it's also a very interesting situation where Chad Weiberg, the athletic director, his contract does not extend beyond this year as of right now. He's kind of a lame duck AD at this point. There's a new university president. The old university president was supposedly really tight with Gundy. Now there's a new one. So there is a bit of a leadership vacuum in general at Oklahoma State, which makes that really interesting. I had a chance to talk today with Carson Cunningham, who is really well connected on this, does a podcast for Pistols Firing. He used to work in TV in Oklahoma City. It'll be posted tomorrow morning. It's really, really good stuff. I would highly encourage you listening to that. So I'm excited for y'all to hear that. But I think this is a situation worth monitoring for sure. I will say, if Oklahoma State fans want some hope, because I see Bobby saying feel for the Pokes, their AD is about to exit as well. I do feel for Oklahoma State fans. It's a rough time, and that program has not seen times like this in quite a while. But the name that's out there as a potential replacement, I mean, Zach Robinson, like that's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. Long way to go. We'll see what happens. I'm not trying to be the one to fire Mike Gundy here today. The guy has been a 9 lives type of coach before. I think the question just is, has he used up life 8 or has he already used up life 9? Is there anything left to pull out of the hat? Now, as far as Big 12 coach being mentioned as a candidate, a couple of different places, it is not Matt Campbell. All right. I hate to spoil it for everybody. It is not Matt Campbell. It is Lance Leipold. Lance Leipold's name was mentioned a couple of times in a big ESPN article about coaches on the hot seat. The first job that was being discussed was Florida. So Adam Rittenberg was actually the one kicking around the Florida job. And first candidate, Dan Lanning, which he was saying not likely, but you probably go at least try and do that. Like, I mean, okay, I guess. I think Dan Lanning would be crazy to take that on. Lane Kiffin was the next, and Lane Kiffin makes, I think, a lot of sense for that job if Florida wants him. Then we got Washington's Jed Fish, which, interesting to Arizona fans. And I think some were surprised he took the Washington job thinking, hey, wait around for Florida. It's coming open soon. Eli Drinkwitz makes this list. That's definitely a guy I could see jumping to a job like that. I mean, I don't know if I would do it if I were Florida, but Drinkwitz has proven me wrong over the last couple of years. Then you get down to Alex Golish at South Florida, which would seemingly be like a slam dunk outside of the fact that I'm sure Florida fans feel like, well, we basically did that when we hired Billy Napier. We took the hot G5 name that was regionally pretty close to us, like in SEC country, and that has not worked at all. Then you get to Lance Leipold. So then Lance Leipold's name is listed by Adam Rittenberg. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like 6th on the list. And frankly, the Florida job, that seems like a weird fit, right? Especially Leipold's 61. At this stage, does he want to go take on a pressure cooker job where, you could be done in 2 or 3 years if things go I mean, you could be done in 2 years if things go poorly there at Florida, where they're going to have a short fuse. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a guy who's going to do that and say, well, it'll be make a bunch of cash even if it doesn't work out. That does not feel like a Lance Leipold job to me. What does make more sense is Wisconsin, although the problem there is the Luke Fickell buyout. But Mark Schleybaugh, who's also writing in this article for ESPN, mentions Wisconsin, mentions the struggle that Luke Fickell is having right now. And much earlier in that article, he brings up Lance Leipold as a potential replacement here. Now, Luke Fickell's buyout is over $40 million at Wisconsin. So does Wisconsin have $40 million to buy out Luke Fickell? I have no idea. That seems like a bit of a stretch. But here's what Schleyboss said about Lance Leipold. Said Leipold is a fascinating candidate to examine. The 61-year-old could finish his career at Kansas. He also could make one big move. If he does, I see him ending up in the Big Ten, especially if a job like Wisconsin opens. Leipold is from the state and spent 3 years as a Wisconsin graduate assistant early in the Barry Alvarez tenure there. So he's got history. Obviously, his Whitewater time, Wisconsin Whitewater time, adds up to being another regional play here. I don't know if you would consider that like totally returning home, but Big Ten, first of all, just stylistically seems to fit him more. Wisconsin as a program and identity seems to fit him more. And then he has the tie of actually being there at Wisconsin before. I mean, that is one that if I'm a Kansas fan, I would be a little concerned about if it comes open. But again, I don't know that Wisconsin has the appetite to swallow a $40 million buyout. It might depend on just how bad things go for Luke Fickell. You'd be rooting for Wisconsin, certainly against Alabama this week, but that is a game where I could see that getting really out of hand for poor Wisconsin this week, going without their starting quarterback to Alabama. Motivated Alabama after what happened against Florida State a couple of weeks ago. So just on the radar. I mean, I think the Gundy thing right now, it feels more likely than not that he would not be the coach there next year, just based on how this season is trending. But he can turn it around. Leipold going anywhere, I'll believe it when I see it, because I think the Wisconsin job might be about the only one that would both be big enough for him to go and not one of the top like 5 to 10 jobs in the country that might have him lower on their lists, right? Sort of the sweet spot there. But 40 million reasons to believe that that is a long shot. Anyway, we always know one constant: death, taxes, and everybody's going to be fishing around the Big 12 for coaches, because there are a lot of good coaches in the Big 12, and they have not gone to these Power 2 jobs nearly as often as people thought they would a couple of years ago when this big gap developed between the Big 10, SEC, and everybody else. So, all right. I think that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. That's what I got for you guys. Please do like the video on your way out. Please subscribe to the channel.